hip swing, more muscular turn.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Europe is Coming podcast, and today we have another behind the scenes episode, and this week we are joined by Mark from ATHX. Hi Mark, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you guys?
Very well, thank you. And I'm joined as ever by John. How are you, John? What's been going on?
Good. The sun has come to Mallorca, which is nice. So feeling that spring vibe.
Yeah, we've actually got a bit in the UK, believe it or not, as well, which has been quite nice. So taking that very much as a positive for the week. So if you're not aware and haven't come across Mark before, Mark was one of the co-founders of ATHX, and we thought it'd be great to bring Mark on and talk about competitions. Mark, for context, every week, myself and John, it seems, are talking about various comps and new comps in the fitness and functional fitness space. And we have lots of questions. So we're really excited to get you on and basically ask you all of those questions as a spokesperson for competitions everywhere.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, more than happy to talk through ATHX and any other competitions that you want. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be on, guys. So yeah, looking forward to the chat.
Amazing. Can we start by just understanding a little bit of the origin story of ATHX? Everyone's got a really interesting origin story that spoke to so far, and I'm sure there's a really cool one behind ATHX.
Yeah, so we've actually been, myself, Ollie, and our fellow co-founder Simon. We've actually been running fitness events now for 8 years. Since 2023, that has been under the guise of ATHX. But before that, we actually started a business called National Fitness Games, which was shortened to NFG. And where that came about was basically I saw an opportunity to create a fitness competition that wasn't basically CrossFit, because at the time, back in 2018, 2017, all of the fitness competitions were CrossFit competitions. And whilst I'm a member of a CrossFit box, I respect CrossFit immensely as a form of training and as a community. If you don't go to a CrossFit gym, it's very, very hard to enter a CrossFit competition because certain movements just aren't practiced in everyday gyms. We all know what movements they are. So saw an opportunity to create something that felt like a CrossFit competition, was structured like a CrossFit competition, but actually just didn't have any of those skill movements. So that's where NFG was born. Simon, my fellow co-founder, has got a huge amount, 30 plus years experience in the event industry. So he came on board as like the events guy, and Ollie Marchon, who you guys know, came on board as the programmer, and him and his team programmed those events. And we did that for about 5 years. Enjoyed putting on the events. Like I said, they were very much run like CrossFit events, full day events. You'd do a workout, you'd wait an hour and a half, 2 hours, you'd do another workout, that type of vibe. And it was going really well. We were enjoying it. There were challenges, as you know, like every time you do an event like that, you're changing the workouts, you're changing the equipment, you're in different venues. A lot of the time you're in outdoor venues, and it was fun but challenging. And then Hyrox came out, and we're again I think people expect me to want to hate Hyrox, but I don't at all. I think it's a great competition, and I'm actually very grateful and thankful for what they've done in this space. But they showed me and they showed Ollie that actually there are different ways to run a fitness competition, and so what we then decided to do was to reformat our comp essentially. And NFG, in doing that, NFG was don't like to say killed off, but NFG was kind of put to a side, and we created ATHX. And what we did with ATHX is we took what we liked about Hyrox and the things we liked, but we also took, learned from things or saw the opportunity in what they weren't doing to create ATHX. And that was back in 2023, and here we are now.
And just touching on NFG quick before we move fully into ATHX, what were the big kind of learning experiences you took from that comp? Because I imagine you had some big kind of things that running a comp for the first time that you'd kind of faced.
Well, when I where the idea for NFG actually came about was I used to work for a protein company doing their sports marketing and their ambassador deals, and they asked me to launch. They asked me to come up with an event or a PR event essentially that would help them launch a new protein product. And what I did, I got 20 of the PTs they work with in London, got them all to meet in a gym in London, the Foundry in Vauxhall, if anyone knows it, great gym. And I said, right, all of you bring 3 mates. And essentially we ran a mini fitness competition, which was them doing workouts against each other. When I went into...
I was actually at that comp, or one of them.
Were you really?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. I went with David Birtwistle, me and his
yeah.
brother and stuff. Yeah, we did one of them,
wow.
I think.
Oh, wow. So that is where, without that, we wouldn't be sat here today, because I did that event with the idea that this would just, this was to launch a protein product. Within about 10 minutes, I kind of knew what my next stage in my career was going to be, because the energy in that room and the competitiveness was unreal. And I thought, right, actually there's something in this. And before then I didn't know a huge amount about fitness competitions. And so the big thing I learned from NFG is the power of competition, both from a community perspective, but also as an individual, having something on the horizon where you know that in 6 weeks, in 8 weeks, you're going to go and do a competition in front of hundreds, if not thousands of people. It really focuses the mind, and it focuses you on your training and on your nutrition. So I think like any sport, right? I feel like having that moment can just really help people and fitness consumers with their overall fitness journey. So that was the big learn I had. I think from an operational perspective, the big learn was I don't ever want to do outdoor events ever again, even though I did one on Miami Beach a couple of weeks ago. But the variables involved in running events outside, particularly fitness events, for me are just too risky, and I think it creates a lot of stress. And I think actually having a model like we do now and like Hyrox do, where it is a lot of consistency, just makes life and operational life in the events world a lot easier.
Actually, because we're just jumping in on that topic, obviously Wodapalooza over the years has had so many troubles with the outdoors. Not just Wodapalooza, I'm highlighting that because of Miami. The games has changed events multiple times, and I kind of completely agree, because it just ends up changing the test of the fitness that you're trying to do. But to have a bit of understanding, is it just like a cost thing? So for like Miami Beach, having you guys put that tent, so at least you guys had a tent rather than just running around. Is it just a cost aspect of having to cover the venue?
Yeah, I think like Miami Beach, right? The advantages of doing the event on the beach is you're in this amazing location, and you've got this, the backdrop of South Beach is unreal. So the sexiness of doing an event on there is great, and it's something we wanted to do, but we didn't once consider doing that without a roof. Like I wouldn't be able to sleep for the 2 weeks beforehand, and I think leaving it up to the gods is just too much of a risk. I at the same time, I understand why Wodapalooza do it, because there is a huge cost involved in it, and I think in a way CrossFit, an element of CrossFit, the unknown, and being able to overcome obstacles and variables and stuff like that. I think as a CrossFit competition, you can probably get away with it a little bit more. I think what we're trying to do and what Hyrox are doing, where you have a functional fitness competition, that means someone can do it in Miami and be compared to someone who's doing it in London. You just can't have that variable. You need consistent conditions, you need consistent judging, you need consistent equipment, and getting that outside, I think, is nigh on impossible.
You mentioned the consistency there, and that's something that kind of CrossFit has been challenged on, perhaps, is a polite way of saying it, over the years, by some of the commenters in the space. What was the decision-making process to make ATHX a kind of a known quantity and a repeatable quantity? How did you get back to that?
Yeah, I think that was one of the learns we took from Hyrox, right? I love the idea with Hyrox that you know what you're training for. and particularly as you know, more on the newbie side, or the people that aren't experienced in fitness competitions, knowing that they're going to have to, you know, run 8K and do these 8 movements in between, I think just takes away a barrier to entry. So we liked that aspect of Hyrox. So we wanted to do something similar, but this is where we're similar but different, right? So with ATHX, we're consistent, we have the same workouts, but we only have that for a calendar year, because we're also big believers in, you want to make sure that we're not we don't get any ATHX fatigue. You know, people don't get 4 years in and we're asking them to do the same workout, and you know, we want to vary it. And I'm also a big believer, and so is Ollie, that fitness trends change, movements will change, equipment will change, all that kind, everything changes in the industry. So if, you know, if this amazing, I don't know, if Concept 2 bring out an amazing bit of equipment in 3 years time, we want the ability to be able to add that into our competition, and that's really important to us. So yeah, consistency for years, that people know what they're training for, but keep it interesting by changing it every January.
I think that's I mean, you can obviously see when people talk about the fitness, Adam and I do a lot on the podcast, but you've got these, ATHX does feel like it's pitched itself right in the middle, you know, and I think also a sweet spot. I think the idea is good in the sense, you know, Hyrox is this 90-minute event. CrossFit events end up being, as you say, 3-4 days. You then also have this element where it's, you know, it's known and knowable for a year, but then actually you have the option to change. So it's like it does feel, you can kind of see the merging of the two worlds coming together in this ATHX. And you know, from what you've mentioned, I presume that has been the idea all along.
Yeah, completely. And we felt that was the opportunity that was, I don't think left on the table, because Hyrox are obviously smashing it, and they're, you know, what they're doing is phenomenal. But we felt that was the opportunity to go after for us. It's like, you know, we want to be an all-round test of fitness. The thing I love about CrossFit is it is an all-round test. You know, you can't, to do well in CrossFit competitions, you can't really have a weakness. And as great as Hyrox is, it's predominantly an endurance test. It has a big endurance bias in terms of the skill set, and we wanted to be an all-round test of fitness, hence the 3 workouts: strength, endurance, and metcon. We wanted to test people on those 3 workouts when they weren't under fatigue. So, you know, you do the strength workout when you're fresh. You've warmed up for half an hour exclusively in a warm-up zone. You come into that strength test very fresh, ready to lift. You then have 10 minutes to change your shoes, so you don't have to run in your lifters or run in your drop sets. You can get on your Addy zeros. You can do your endurance test. You then have 30 minutes to recover before you do a metcon test. So each of the workouts, you're going in the best place to perform. So it's not pure endurance. So we love the all-round test. We love that CrossFit do an all-round test, but where we do, like, we don't have the skill movements. Like, anyone, no matter what gym you're in, you will see these movements in all gyms, whether it's a leisure center gym, a gym chain, or a CrossFit box. And I think that's where we're good. It's like, our workouts are in no way boring for CrossFitters. CrossFitters love our workouts, but they don't exclude people that don't do CrossFit. So I hope, and it by design, that we've got that sweet spot, like you say.
I was going to ask a bit more about that, like the tension between sort of accessible and credible. So, like, you know, obviously having your everyday athlete wanting to show up, but also being able to test those on the higher end of the fitness spectrum. Like, how do you make sure that you can attract the right people?
I think that's where Ollie comes into his own, and his experience is great, because Ollie is, whilst I'm not saying he's an elite athlete compared to some of the guys and girls that you guys deal with and interact with, he's still a very, very good athlete. But he owns a gym chain. You know, he has, I think it's now 5 March On gyms, and the predominantly the people that train in those gyms are everyday people. They're certainly not Ollie's. They're more me's than Ollie. And he So we devise the workout, and Ollie is devising them based on a challenge, something that he knows will be challenging for him, but that also will be challenging for his gym members. And then we test them thoroughly. Like, that is really important. So we test them at all levels. So I think for, we have people like Chandler, testing certain stuff on workouts, and then we have people who have never in these workouts for this year, two of my friends who have never been into a gym, well, certainly never been into a gym for a very long time, I got them to test them as well. So we're doing it on both scales, and so far I think we've nailed it, and I'm confident that we still will moving forward.
Very cool. You mentioned Chandler Smith there, and I've seen he's been at the March on gyms and training and stuff. Is the hope that you'll attract more athletes from Hyrox space and CrossFit space to kind of jump into ATHX and get that other people from this hybrid fitness space kind of involved?
Yeah, definitely. I think that was the coolest thing, or not the coolest, one of the cool things about the Miami event was actually seeing Elite 15 Hyrox athletes going against some of the best CrossFit athletes in the world. So we had Colin, we had Camilla Massa from the Hyrox world, we had Daniel Brandon, Nick Matthew, and others from the CrossFit world. And it was just seeing like Hyrox versus CrossFit type. Like, I want to bring more athletes in. We had Erin Murray, who's a strong woman competitor, doing the event in Miami as well. I think there's an opportunity to get people outside of the traditional fitness landscape competing. So MMA athletes, rugby league people, athletes in the UK, NFL athletes in America. I would love to see how they stack up against the CrossFitters and the Hyrox people, because I just think it's really interesting. And I think, but then it doesn't. So yes, we want to attract elite athletes. We've got plans to launch an elite category division very, very soon. But also, we don't want to forget about the 98% of our competitors are everyday people that aren't trying to get onto the podium. They're there to try and improve themselves, to test themselves, and to challenge themselves. And I never want to kind of get away from that. It's really important for me that ATHX is a competition for all, and I love nothing more than seeing the Metcon workout. And you have a Metcon workout, you have one pair finishing in 9 minutes and another pair in the lane next to them, pushing it right to the time cap of 25 minutes. But the best thing about it is everyone cheers each other on and supports each other, and that's what we have to maintain for sure.
So I just want to follow up on the goals of ATHX, because obviously I think CrossFit has struggled with this sometimes. Of you've got the elites, the sport of fitness, all these things, but then you also have this huge community element. And there was a long time where the CrossFit media was a bit divided. Like, how do they showcase both sides of that? And I also think, because that's what's interesting to hear the goals of what you're trying to achieve with the event.
Yeah. Well, the main goal is to, like I said, to offer people a moment, right? A goal, a thing in the future that is going to help inspire them and motivate them on their fitness journey. That is our main goal, and giving them a really cool, a really unique, and a really immersive experience at the end of that. That is the goal, and will always remain the goal. That doesn't mean we can't attract elite athletes. We want to do that, but we just don't want to do that at the sacrifice of delivering a really cool event for our community. I'm a big believer that we can do both. I think that our world finals will have an elite heat, but that elite heat will be amongst our community heats. It won't be on a standalone day. It won't be in a standalone arena. It will be part of what we're doing with everyone else, because yes, whilst they are athletes on a different level, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily more important or less important than the core community. So that's what we're trying to do. And the overall goal, overall ambition is we want to take ATHX, truly global. This year we're going to deliver 20 events across UK, Europe and America. In 2027 that's going to be 40 plus events, and I think by 2028 we'll be over 50 in every kind of major continent and fitness community across the globe is the vision.
It's really cool about the community aspects, and it's something that John and I talk about a lot when we kind of get on and do our weekly recaps. We talk about kind of the community element and how we feel like we're maybe missing that in a bit of the CrossFit space over the last few years compared to you see Hyrox and everyone kind of coming together. And it's interesting that you talked about the international kind of scaling aspects, because it feels like it's growing really quickly. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you went from like 2 events to then something like 7 events or something in having international events. Like, it feels like it's growing really quickly. Like, what has been the motivation behind that, or has it just been the demand? You're like, we need to put this up in more places.
Yeah, I think there's the demand. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we get emails on a weekly basis from all over the world in the countries we're not in, asking us to bring ATHX out there. That doesn't obviously mean you can always do it and you can move as fast as you'd like to, or they'd like you to, but it shows that the demand is out there. Look, for me, to make a, we're talking about in next year having each ATHX event will be between like 3,000 and 5,000 competitors. I'm a huge believer in we should be able to, with the product we have and the event that we put on, we should be able to attract that number of competitors in every major city pretty much in the world. So if this event can work in London and it can work in Miami and it can work in Glasgow and Berlin and Houston, then there's no reason why it doesn't work in every other major European city, every other major American city, into other continents. So that's why we're doing it. There's also an element of, and this might sound alien to some people and I completely get it, but in some respects, the more events you put on, like, the easier it can be in a way, because you kind of go from one venue, you pack up your trucks, we move to the next venue, we unload the trucks, and then we go again and and a bit like the circus effect is what you're doing. And sometimes actually when you have 3 months between events or 2 months between events, it's a bit harder because you have to go back to a central storage and unload and stuff like that. So yeah, I think the main driver is demand. And we believe the opportunity is there. I think Adidas have been an amazing partner for us, and I think working together, they're very ambitious for us to take this global, because their teams, their Adidas teams across the globe are crying out for it. So that's also a driving factor. But just very, very ambitious team we've got.
It's almost like you're teeing these questions up for us, Mark. I was going to ask about the Adidas partnership that was recently announced, I believe. And you also mentioned kind of at the Miami event how you had CrossFitters going against Hyroxers, and there was a bit of a charge to see who is the best. I feel like Adidas are also fueling that with recent content and some of their events where they've had in Germany, where they've had both stars of CrossFit and Hyrox going and competing against one another. And it was also interesting, just a comment from me on, you were talking about like bringing MMA and rugby players. I feel like there's almost a thing happening in hybrid fitness, a bit like it did with MMA at the early days, where it was like finding out who had the best martial arts style in MMA. And, obviously jiu-jitsu did great things, but it kind of feels like the same could happen in kind of hybrid fitness. And yeah, I kind of thought I'd comment on that just before kind of open the floor around the Adidas partnership and what that's bringing.
Yeah, definitely. You might be too young, Adam, but and you, John, actually, I'm not sure, but there used to be a program, Superstars, in the UK, and that was the whole idea was, right, different athletes from different sports competing against each other in sports that neither of them did. And it's kind of, that's something that I have always thought about, and I think particularly how we test stuff, like there is no reason why a rower, for example, couldn't do really, really well against a CrossFitter in a number of our competitions. Like the Metcon one, they might need to practice a bit, but strength and endurance certainly, and other sports for sure. So I think there's a really interesting angle, and it's something that we want to explore. To do it for sure. From the Adidas side of things, yeah, I mean they've been amazing to us. Like I said, they backed us, and I know we announced a global deal with them recently, but they backed us from day one. So even before we'd done an ATHX event, we had a partnership in place with Adidas, and that was the UK team. So that was back in 2023, and it went to a global deal last year. So we went to a global deal last year after 2 years of being a UK deal, and they're just an amazing partner to work with. And I think what really excites me about Adidas is the commitment they're making to the training space overall. I don't know if you guys have noticed it, but I'm seeing more and more people wearing the 3 stripes in gyms, at events, and it's because Adidas are taking the area seriously. They're not seeing training as, oh, people are training in a gym to be better at football or to be better at rugby. They're seeing training as its own discipline and its own sport. And I think that's how you succeed, right? Their product has improved massively over the last few years, from the shoes to everything. And I think so having and at our events, then they're not just about labeling the event. They show up, they do activations, they really get involved. In Paris, we're creating the ATHX Adidas hybrid hotel with them. So we're taking over a hotel and we're turning it into like a functional fitness hybrid hotel for the weekend for guests to have, like massage and protein smoothies and nutrition talks and all shakeout runs and all this kind of stuff from there. And it just shows their commitment to not only ATHX but to the space in general, which I think is great.
One of the conversations we've had with, one behind the scenes and 2 on the podcast as well, is with the event organizers, and that is just how expensive events can be. And then we saw this through the CrossFit space and the history, where events would pop up and then they wouldn't last very long because it's so expensive to run, and there's not necessarily the return. And with ATHX, obviously being able to do 50 events, at some point it has to be like financially viable in that model. And is that something that you've managed to achieve already with the events, or is it more of a long-term goal that you have?
Yeah, so you're completely right. It's not putting on events is very expensive. Moving equipment around across Europe is very expensive. What we've invested a lot of money into this business to get us to a point now where it's a more than a sustainable business. We're putting on events where we're selling out. We're going to 2-day events. We're looking at increasing lanes because the demand is there. So it's definitely a bums on seats, as we say, model. Like, you need the people there to make the events viable, but we've got it to a point where we are getting the people there. I think that what's also very important is we don't want ATHX just to be seen as an event. We definitely want it to be seen as a brand and as a community. So there are ways in which our revenue just doesn't come from event ticket sales, and there's loads of other ways of making the business work, right? So merchandise. We've got an affiliate program which launched in September, and we're over 200 affiliates already and growing very, very fast. And the great thing about that affiliate model is the gyms. It works for the gyms financially as much as it does for us. So it's a win-win model, which is going really well. So yeah, in answer to your question, yes, it's a challenging thing putting on events, but I think the way we're doing it and the investment we've done so far has got us to a point where we're in a good position.
Because that's one thing I was going to ask. Like, Hyrox have obviously, I think they've just superseded CrossFit in terms of number of affiliates. I think it just went over 15,000 globally, which is pretty huge when you consider that it's not their primary revenue source as well. It's like a support. But because with these fitness events, I think they obviously see, they saw it with CrossFit, they see it with Hyrox, but what does ATHX offer an affiliate in that model? Yeah.
So with our affiliate model, there's various things we offer. I think the main thing, we give people the opportunity to make their monthly their monthly subscription that they pay to us back through running of in-house competitions, kickbacks we give them on their members entering our events, and stuff like that. We also give them access. We've built like a buyer's portal. So the idea is our aim, our vision is by the end of 2028 to have over 4,000 affiliates. So the buying power of having 4,000 gyms together when you're buying equipment or buying insurance or buying all those different things. So we're creating this buyers club, which we believe will add a huge amount of value. We also educate their coaches and their gym managers on really, this is the thing where I think we're slightly different to what other people do, is that our focus isn't solely on making or getting coaches to make their members or their clients better at ATHX. We want them to teach the fundamentals of strength and conditioning, because essentially we believe one of the byproducts of being, getting your client better at strength and conditioning is they will become better at ATHX. But it's only one thing. Essentially, we're trying to make them better athletes for life, and it just means they get better at they'll get better results on the competition floor. Whereas I think some other affiliate programs, it becomes all about the time, all about, right, how can you, in the Hyrox model, right, how can you do these 8 movements better, how can you run faster? And actually that's not something we necessarily believe in to that level. So educate the coaches, like I said, give the gyms the ability to earn the money back through driving their members to compete and giving them kickbacks on that, and giving them the opportunity to make savings across their business as part of the buyers club of the main things.
Just quickly going back to, we talked about expansion and going to other countries. Just looking at the US as a specific market, it feels like the US is in an interesting spot from a fitness perspective, because CrossFit, we've seen live events don't really get people going spectating all that much now, and there's more and more events coming out that we already talked about, like Xenon, for instance, recently announced, and I think their first event is in America. So it feels like America's like this big nut to crack, but actually at the moment maybe isn't as active as perhaps Europe or other markets. What's your view on the States specifically?
I think our product is perfect for the American market. Like you guys said, I feel like we fill that void or that gap that exists between CrossFit and Hyrox. I think the CrossFit events in America are doing really well, and the Hyrox events in America are doing really well and selling really well, and are filling up. And I feel like we can offer something and deliver something for that community that looks similar, feels similar, delivered to a very high standard, but there is that different fitness test. And as you guys will know, like in America, there is the level of athlete as a standard, as an average, is probably slightly greater than Europe, I would say. And I think that so I believe really strongly that our product will go down really well with the American market, as it did, with that first Miami event. We launched that event 4 weeks out from actually the event day, and we sold out. We sold a day out, which, being completely honest with you, I wasn't expecting because of how close we were to the event. So that kind of gave us some confidence, but at the same time, we're not taking it for granted. We need to go out there. We're building a team in America that is going to be a team, exclusive for the American market, an ATHX team that their job is to make sure that all the fitness communities know about ATHX, know what it is, and know what the workouts are. And I think if we do that hard work, we're convinced that the events will sell. So we're actually looking at it and thinking next year will be somewhere between 10 and 16 events in America in 2027.
Wow, that's super exciting.
Yeah, because like I said, I think that if the event works in LA, works in San Diego, there is no reason why it doesn't work in New York, in Boston, in Houston, in Miami, etc., etc. It's just, but at the same time, we're not going out there thinking that it's just going to happen. You have to do the groundwork, do the hard work to let people know. But once people know about it, we believe it it will attract them, and then it's about delivering really high level experiences and events for them.
And from a spectator point of view, because that seems to be the like next wave, right? We're getting the people through the door to kind of have an experience, but the next wave feels like it's like, how do we actually get people to come and watch this stuff? And no longer is it just a participation thing, it's also becoming it's sport on its own, right? And a spectator thing, and there's online streaming. Have you kind of thought about how you build like an audience for this just outside of like the athletes participating?
Yeah, so the plan for our first, hopefully our first online stream will be at our finals this year, which will be at the end of November in Lisbon. So we want to stream that event for sure, and I think that will hopefully there'll be some interest in watching it. It's quite a watchable format, if you like, because it's easy to follow. The athletes are very, they're in a zone for each workout, and it's only it's a 2.5 hour experience for the athlete, but you're watching essentially a 20-minute strength workout, a 22-minute endurance workout, and then a 20 to 25-minute Metcon workout. So it's very, you can be very focused. It's not something hard to follow or a long duration of watching. So we think that will work well. In terms of driving spectators to the event, at the moment, majority, if not all, the people that come and watch are people that are there to watch family or friends, and that's something that I want to change. So we're working with Adidas on actually what can we offer at the event that is going to drive spectators to come to it, even if they don't know someone that's competing. So we're looking at, can we run workshops at the event? Can we run activations that can be really exciting? Can we do things that could we run an Adidas run club or even a 5K from the event that would actually drive a different audience, but a like-minded audience to the event, and then they'll then experience it and see what it's about. And that doesn't just have to be with Adidas, with some of our other partners. We've just signed a deal with Tupood, and we're looking at, can we do lifting workshops at the event? We're even talking to other event organizers, running events, for example, or even you could see an angle where a CrossFit event. There could be a CrossFit event happening in a venue at the same time as an ATHX. There's loads of things we're exploring, but that's a big focus for me and the team, is that we make it a really cool spectator experience as well as an athlete experience.
And I was going to ask, does that then influence kind of where you choose to put an ATHX event? Is there a particular at the moment venue type or venue style you're like, that's where an ATHX needs to be, or is it at the moment kind of a bit more broad than that?
So we like probably 90% of our events are in exhibition halls, and it just works, right? Because you've got an empty box essentially. We're taking our arena and we're building it in the same type of space every single time, similar flooring, similar lighting, similar everything. So once you're in there, you could really be anywhere from an operational perspective. But we also love the idea of having a few unique venues every year, Miami Beach being one of them, right? The conditions were very similar because of the roof, but the backdrop was unbelievable. I love the idea. The venue we're looking at for New York isn't your traditional expo hall. It's something that's a little bit different and quite cool. There's other venues we looked at as well. So, but yeah, 90 to 95% will always be that expo hall, but with a couple of special ones each year, hopefully.
I wanted to just jump in something that I've been thinking about a lot, and I think right now, in terms of fitness competitions, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say there's probably thousands. I think here in Mallorca, in the last 3 years, I think there's 8 or 9 separate things, from a strong race to all these different gym chains are doing their own hybrid fitness, and so everyone's Hyrox has definitely just exploded that world of possibilities. But one in particular came out recently that I think was at least more hyped up by the CrossFit world, which was Xenon. And I'd love to get your thoughts on that, especially from how they've approached it, because being 2 days, 10 workouts, high price point. And I'd really be interested to get your perspective on, if you think it's been a good or a bad idea.
I don't know if it's for me to say it's a good or bad idea. It was interesting. I think when I first heard about it, I thought that it was going to be something different to what it actually ended up being. And essentially, I feel like they created a very elite or high level CrossFit event, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that in any way, you know, but that's the route they've gone down, because you know, we've all seen the workouts, right? So the movements within the workouts aimed at high level CrossFit athletes, and the fact that it's 2 days and the price point means that they're the people you're going to attract. And again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's the space they've chosen to play in, and good luck to them. I think the more high quality fitness events that can be in this space, the better, whether that is a CrossFit specific event or more of a, you know, endurance test, or more of a hybrid, or something in the middle. It for me, the better quality events and the better experiences we can all put on, then I think we can all benefit, and the industry as a whole will just grow stronger.
Because you guys have obviously done a lot of market research to know where to go, how to price things. Do you think it's possible to get 2,000 people paying that amount of money per event?
Proof will be in the pudding, won't it? I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know if it will all depend on what. I think the demand can be there if the experience matches the price point, right? If people feel like they're getting value for money, particularly in America, I think they can sell out those events in America. I think you know, I've run a few CrossFit events in the UK under the Strength and Depth banner, and I think it'll be more challenging in the UK if they come to the UK. But again, I might be wrong. It's not necessarily an area we play in as much anymore, or that's not our format. So it's not something we've necessarily considered maybe as much. Yeah, but I think they could. But yeah, they have to deliver for that money. You have to deliver something really, really special. So hopefully they will.
And with your guys' event, because obviously the format's fixed now, you kind of have some variance, as you said, in terms of programming the workout. But is there anything that you'd have changed based on your experience, or with all the other events that you see popping up now, do you go, that was actually a good idea? Or
yeah, I think if I could have changed, so we brought out the run loop. So we actually get people running. The first time we did that was last year in 2025. If I had the time again, I'd have had that from the start, because I think that was game changing. I think the difference between running an actual loop or on a track versus running on a running machine, I think it was game changing, and I think people enjoy that. As someone who does ATHX events, it's much more enjoyable running around the 250 meter track than it is running on a curved treadmill. So I think I would have done that. We take learnings from other events all the time, and it's like, and whether it's a big event like Hyrox, or it's the CrossFit Games, or it's a local gym comp, I think it's very dangerous to think that you've nailed it and you're perfect. So I think we take learnings all the time. One thing we're really keen to do, and we're working on at the moment, is like make it easier for spectators to follow what's going on, make it easier for athletes to see how they're doing versus the person in the lane, you know, four along. And I think that's really important. I think also, like, the feedback we give people and give athletes is really, really important. So I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but we have like a ATHX Fit Score system, which essentially, so as well, when you compete, as well as seeing where you came in the leaderboard in your category, you also get essentially like a top trumps card where you get a rating out of 100 for the different lifts you did for running, for rowing, and for the Metcon workout. And I think that is something that we need to talk about more, because I think it's really, most people, when they do an ATHX, they get to the end of it and they know how to come back and do the event better next time. But this card just gives them that proof. And it's like, so then you go into the gym, like for me personally, not that I'm any kind of superstar athlete, but I know where my ATHX score gets let down is my running. So I'm motivated to do more running and to even though it's not something I massively enjoy, I'm motivated to do it because the numbers and the data that I get and the feedback that I get shows me how I can improve as an athlete at my level. So I think that's something that we need to and will be talking about more.
Yeah, I think it's super cool, and I'm glad you brought that up. You're teeing up my next question again, Mark. Is your Uptivo partnership, which I saw, which is like AI coaching and wearable integration. Believe me, correct me if I'm wrong. So,
yeah,
how do you see technology kind of and the future of kind of fitness interweaving? Because I feel like they are. You've seen Whoop's valuation recently. I feel like AI and tech now are here to stay in fitness, and they're going to be a massive part of it.
Definitely. And I think as an event organizer, you've got that side of it, right? Where the partnership with Uptivo will be around giving that feedback to a whole nother level. So not only are we telling people, what they lifted and what that equates to as a score out of 100 and how their running was, but also then looking at that heart rate monitor data and combining the two things and then giving them not only like feedback on their performance, but then the tools of how to get better. So really exciting. And the great thing about Uptivo, it doesn't matter whether you're wearing, it's an Apple Watch, it's a MyZone device, whatever it is, it works with everything. So that was what we really loved about that. And the AI tech is great. So it's exciting where that partnership can go. But also from an event organizer, like AI could be game changing when it comes to judging, right? Personally, I don't think it's quite there at the moment. I'm going to be delighted when someone proves me wrong and can show that it is. And I know there's a couple of events that are using kind of AI for judging, but for me, judging standards, it has to be like really, I have to be sure that it's going to work to do it, but I think we will get to that point. So having the ability, to have a clean floor where there are no judges in strength and the judging is being done by AI, and the same in Metcon. I mean, that will be game changing. I don't reckon we're that far away from it.
Do you think that's kind of close on the horizon?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of gyms in the US, where all the coaching is being done by AI and cameras and stuff like that. I've had people present to me like the ability for AI to judge like squat depth and to judge burpees. And I know there's an event in London that does it, but the feedback I get and from my own eyes, like I'm not sure it's close enough to 100% to use it at the moment. It makes their life easier because they don't need to recruit judges, look after judges, fund judges. So it makes their life easier, and the event probably more profitable. But for me, if it's not spot on, the experience isn't going to be good enough for the competitor. So, but I can't see that we're going to be that far away at all.
Interesting. And for those listening who maybe aren't familiar with Uptivo, could you just kind of tell us a little bit more about the platform and then how it really integrates with ATHX and
they have this. It's just a unique thing where, like I said, they have they'll take the data, the heart rate monitor data, or your performance metrics. They combine it with all the data that we give them in terms of what people lifted, how fast people ran, how fast people rode, and their Metcon time. And it combines and it gives you like a really nice report on your overall performance in the ATHX arena. And then if you want to, it will then turn that into a training plan that will be personal to you, that will allow you to improve on, like, develop your areas of strength, but improve on your areas of weakness. So it's really cool, and it's all done, obviously via AI. That doesn't mean that everyone has to use that. You can also take the information and the report we give you and take it back to your coach, take it back to your gym manager, who can then program something for you themselves. So I think it just gives people different options, and depending on where you're training and the environment you're training in, I think it's nice to have those two options. Yeah,
very cool. And I know we're kind of getting close to time, but Could you give us a bit of a view of where you, I mean, we've talked about the growth for ATHX and some of that stuff. What's the future vision, without obviously being too big a question, but what's the future vision for ATHX? Where do you see us going? And maybe also a little bit on the fitness industry, because I feel like things have changed and grown really quickly in the last few years. And CrossFit being this established player to being disrupted quite largely. Where do you think that we're going to go?
Yeah, I think the overall kind of future of fitness competitions, I think, is really healthy. I think as we, you know, the world is changing, right? And like people are using AI more, people are working from home more, and all those things I think actually will drive people to want and desire like real life experiences and real life interactions with people, other people. And I think so the events industry as a total, and including the fitness events with that, I think the future looks bright because people are going to crave those things more. So I think that's exciting. In terms of ATHX, what we want to do, we want to continue to grow and grow rapidly. Like I said, we're looking at 40 plus events next year, which will be double what we're going to deliver this year. I think moving on into 2028, it will be 55 plus. For me, where if there's a Hyrox event that takes place in a city, then there's no reason why an ATHX event can't work there as well. And even in cities that Hyrox don't go to, if there's a fitness community that exists and there's a training culture, then ATHX can work. So I think, you know, resource, time, manpower is going to be really the only limiting factor that can allow us to get close, you know, to 100 events in a year, which I think would be really achievable. My team might not agree with this, but I can't wait for the day when we're doing 2 events on the same day in different parts of the world. I'm so excited about the content opportunity around that, the social media opportunity. I just love it. They get annoyed with me at the moment when we do back-to-back events, like we've got Milan and Paris. But I think same day events will be so cool. So yeah, and then like I said, I think we want to grow ATHX at both ends of the scale. So yes, we would love to have more elite athletes taking part across multiple sports, not only CrossFit athletes, Hyrox athletes, but other sports, like I said, but also at the other end as well. It's really important for me that anyone that's going to a gym 2-3 times a week, you know, feels that they could come and do an ATHX, and we support them and give them the tools that they need to feel comfortable to come and do an ATHX. Our eldest competitor so far has been 78. Our youngest has been 16, and there's everything in between. And ability wise, like I said, the 2 guys that tested the workouts for me this year ended up doing the event in London, having never been to a gym before. Another of my friends never went, 45-year-old guy, had never been to the gym before, signed up to do an ATHX and is now going to the gym 4 or 5 times a week and eating overnight oats in the morning. It's been life-changing for him, and I think we can do that for more people. And I genuinely believe that that's not a throwaway line. I think the evidence is there that we can change the lives of people that end, whilst also attracting more elite athletes at the top end.
I maybe had a simpler question. What does ATHX stand for? I did a bit of research, but I didn't get the.
Do you know what this is? This is something we definitely need to tell the story better. So ATHX is, so the ATH in ATHX means athlete, and the X is basically meaning you. So for your time in the ATHX experience, you are the athlete, and no matter what level you're at, no matter what category you're doing, we want you to feel like you're treated like an athlete. So when you're in the warm-up zone, you have a dedicated warm-up space. We're showing you, helping you in terms of how you warm up. Obviously, when you're in the refuel zone, again, you're getting products that elite athletes get, that you feel like you're being treated special. In the recovery zone, there's hyperized products available. When you finish the experience, there's massage, there's chill areas. So the idea is for that 2.5 hours, you feel like you are an athlete and you feel like an athlete. So hence the X representing you.
Awesome. I had one more question just around media, because we've mentioned it a few times and you've mentioned kind of telling stories. Do you have any like views on media? Because again, myself and John have talked about on our podcast episodes about the media and the role with it within CrossFit. And then when it went away, just again, we kind of really noticed the impact of that on CrossFit athletes. Now you look at some of the top athletes of this generation versus 10 years ago, their followings on social media, it seems to be very contrast. So do you have like a view of how media is going to contribute to ATHX or its role within ATHX?
Yeah, it was interesting. You guys said earlier around CrossFit events in the US not attracting the spectators that they used to, and I think the main reason behind that is that the personalities haven't been nurtured as much as they were, and I think the big thing around that is because of the lack of media, or not the level of media that there was. You know, I used to, before I even went to a CrossFit box, I used to love watching the CrossFit Games documentary, and it just seems that just isn't at the level as it was previously. And I think those personalities do exist within the sport, but they're just not being shown to the level they were. Media is something that we want to invest in, and we're continually investing in. You know, the content that we put out on our social channels is great. As this year particularly has taken a big jump, but there's loads more we want to do. And again, I feel like it's about telling the stories, not just of the elite athletes. That is a really important part of it, but also telling the stories of the everyday athletes. I think both is really important. It's something that as we grow, we will continue to invest in for sure.
Very cool. Well, we are almost at time now. John, do you have anything else that you want to ask Mark before we wrap this up?
Not ask, but I think, you know, just a shout out to you guys. Like, we've discussed this and in behind the scenes conversations, we think it's a great concept. Like, it's I think it really hits the, you know, we look at it as like a Venn diagram, and you've kind of managed to fit in well. It's an experience that people can go to. It has the more complex movements, but not too complex. So, you know, I think well done to you and the team for, you know, creating something that's that looks very cool.
Appreciate it. No, from you guys, that means a lot. Obviously, you're very respected people within the space, so that means a lot. And if you guys want to come and partner up and do one of the upcoming events, just
is that a partnership with you, Mark? We get to you do the strength and I'll do the running.
Well, honestly, John, I'm doing my thing this year is I'm doing every single ATHX event I'm doing. So, and in every one I'm competing with a different person. So if you want to jump in with me for one of the events, you're more than welcome.
Okay, nice. That sounds fun.
Cool, brilliant.
Very cool. Well, on that note, I think we should wrap it up, and I'll definitely bring it up every episode from now on, Mark, to check on whether that's actually happened or not. So the listeners can expect to get an update on that very soon. Well, Mark, thanks so much. I echo what John said. It's really cool. It's cool to see people doing different stuff in the space, and I'm really excited to see the growth of ATHX over the next year and beyond.
Thank you. Appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Well, team, thank you very much for tuning in. And if you want to jump into an ATHX, if that's wet your whistle, then I'll put the link in the description for the competition page. Sign up. There's some really cool events by the looks of it all over the world now. So yeah, if that's really got you in the mood for some competition, and also hopefully we'll have a time from John and the pairs that we can then you can then compete against. But thank you very much for listening, everyone. Thank you very much to Mark for his time, and John, as always, for the conversation, and we will catch you on the next episode.